Hi, and welcome to Conquering the Glass Ceiling with Dr. Cortney. She is a podcaster, a researcher, and a nationally recognized advocate for gender equality. Good morning, Dr. Cortney.
Good morning, Julie. Thank you so much.
Well, and we're doing things a little bit differently today. This is your show. You're going to be the host and the person doing the interviews. But I'm here today because we need a chance to get to know you a little bit, find out about your background, and find out a little bit about the show. What are the things that we can expect from Conquering the Glass Ceiling?
I believe when women know their worth and their value and find their confidence that we can achieve gender equality. And on our time together, I'm going to be sharing each week my experience, my research, and my insights on how we can gain gender equality. But also, I'm going to have guests who have defined their success on their own terms and found their confidence. And I'm so excited to share their experiences and just be able to empower and inspire women to find their confidence and determine success however they define it.
Oh, that's so wonderful to hear. And women, we as women, we need to hear these stories. We need that type of positive reinforcement. Mm-hmm. And you in particular have an incredible story. So please tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, my adult journey started as a single teenage mom. I graduated high school from Cedar Hill High School in 1993. And 6 months after I graduated high school, I had my son, Landon.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. So how old were you? 17, 18?
I was 18 when I got pregnant, 19 when I had my son. Oh. And for my 19th birthday, I got a rocking chair.
Oh, no.
Yes. Yes. Oh, and all of my friends were going off to college, and I was going to the food stamps office and the Medicaid office. And and I was waiting tables, double shifts at 9 months pregnant just to me at Black Eyed Pea.
Oh my gosh. Well, I love Black Eyed Pea.
I know.
But were you getting any support from your family, or were you kind of on your own?
I was living with my mom and my stepdad at the time, or else I would not have been able to do it, honestly, and where I was in my journey after graduating high school, that was why I was able to do it, because I was done with I put high school behind me. Why not have a kid?
Why not? It's time.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So, and then from there, I got married about a year when my son was about a year and a half, and moved to Illinois and started school there, and decided I loved being married, but it just wasn't a good fit for us. So we had some challenges, but I left the day before our 3-year anniversary and finished school in Illinois and got my master's degree in communication disorders and sciences, which is just fancy for saying speech pathology.
How did you manage that? I mean, especially because at this point you're away from your family. Mm-hmm. How do you juggle that at this point when you're a single parent, going to school, getting your degree, taking the classes? How did you pull that off?
Prayer. Prayer.
Really?
Yes. And I didn't look at my journey as optional. It was this is what I have to do. And it was a means to an end. And I think so many women and men sometimes look at success or their dreams as optional. Mm-hmm. And they put them in this box and put them on a shelf and don't live them. And so that's one of the reasons that I wanted to do this show, is to say, get that box off the shelf. Let's dust it off and let's open it up and see what's inside.
Well, and there's always this assumption that there's two paths once a woman gets pregnant. Mm-hmm. You either just focus on your career and find a way, get childcare or whatever, mm-hmm. or you stay home and that you just have to be the parent at that point in time. Mm-hmm. It's like that burden always falls on the woman of, you have to figure out what's going to happen with this child. Mm-hmm. Whereas I think the men, obviously, that's not always the issue. It lands in the mother's lap.
Right. And his biological father, wasn't in the picture at all. So there was no plan B. It was mommy, which is fine because I wouldn't want it any other way now.
So you mentioned prayer. Has prayer and faith, has this always played a big part in your journey?
Oh, yeah. Especially when when I lost my sister when I was 16, she died of a heart defect that no one knew about, and she was 20 years old. And that was one of the reasons I knew that I couldn't make a different decision with my son. And I knew that it was something that I had to, I knew I needed help in that moment. And even since then, and it's, even through all the trials I've been through and tribulations, I have always had this faith where God has told me, when have I ever not taken care of you? And I know that. And so no matter how dark those days have been or get, I know that I have always had a purpose, a bigger purpose than I even was aware of.
I want to emphasize this for a moment, because I think that all adult women hit that moment in your life where you are in a dark place. It's like the closet door is shut and you can't get on top of the moment, your emotions. What do you do? What do you tell yourself in that moment to help you open the door and take the next step?
Well, I go to His Word, honestly, and I look and I say, I know I am chosen. I know I'm beloved. I know I am a child of God, and I have a purpose bigger than anything I can understand or comprehend. And so many women, we all do, but it's believing that and knowing that I am here to show His light and love to others.
You just gave me chills. Aww. I love that, though. I mean, and I think that's important, because it's really hard to get over that hump when you are in that difficult moment. So tell us, we were at the point where you were going to college and you have a child and you were single. So what happens after that moment in your life?
I graduated with my master's degree in communication disorders, and then moved back to Dallas from Illinois. And thankfully, my husband and I started dating before I left. And what was interesting about that, and I was just speaking to someone about that yesterday, is I knew I was supposed to move home, but it just wasn't time to go when I was in my master's degree. And I couldn't figure out why, because I was supposed to come back to do my clinicals, but I couldn't figure out why. And then later is when my husband and I started dating, and I was like, that is why. I just knew.
That's remarkable.
Yeah.
And I think that plays into that having faith in yourself.
Oh, yeah.
How do you know when to listen to that inner voice? Because I think so often our inner voice will tell us negative things.
Oh, totally.
So how do you know? How do you guide that inner voice to work for you?
Well, when I am listening to that voice, I can tell if it's mine and it's the negative. You know, I always say we've got somebody sitting right here, and I've got mine named, and I just... But I know when it's mine, and I know when it's here. And when it's here, I listen, and when it's here, I...
Did you say you have it named?
I do.
What's its name?
Lucy.
Lucy, that's my daughter's name.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Well, to be fair, my Lucy is a jokester, and she is the type who would sit on your shoulder and say things just to mess with your head.
Yes. So you know, and yeah, that's her name. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. But I love
I
that.
have a reason, but we won't go into that.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's Lucy. Lucy. But finding a way to distinguish between that negative voice that's telling you no and the voice that's inside that's pushing you forward and finding you on a positive path towards where you're supposed to be. So you found that moment where you knew it was time to come home. And can you tell us a little bit about meeting your husband? Because I can tell, like, you light up when you get to that point in the discussion. So tell us about meeting him.
So he's going to kill me. We had known each other throughout my undergrad and graduate classes, and I always thought he hung out with the wrong crowd. So my friend would always say, Jason Baker is so in love with you. And I would be like, Jason Baker? And, you know, like, we have nothing in common. And then one night, this is the honest to God's truth, one night we were out, and I went up and just, like, started talking to him. And we went to the zoo, and
It just
we've been
clicked.
together ever since.
And how long has that been now?
We have been married this year 16 years.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
That's
Thank you.
good.
Yeah.
I always feel like if you can get to 15 years, then you're doing pretty well.
If you can get past 7, God.
That's true.
Yeah.
What is it about 7 years?
I
There
don't
really
know.
is.
There really is.
Something
It
to that
was-
7-year mark.
Yeah, it was definitely a rough one. I mean, we had, and we've since then we have added to our family. So we have 2 little girls that are 14 and 10 now.
That's how old my daughters are.
Oh,
I know. No wonder we get along so
know,
well.
Exactly.
So, I want to ask you, how important do you think it is? I mean, because obviously, on top of being a wife and a mother, you have been on this path, your career that has obviously played a huge, force in your life. So, how important is it to find a partner who's going to support you in that?
It's vital. You have to. You have to. If you want to raise a solid family and have a career, you have to have a partner. In fact, there was research that was done that every 1 hour a man contributes to housework or childcare, a woman does 1.7 hours, so nearly double. And the only way we're ever going to achieve quality is when we get more equality in the home. And in fact, research has even been done when men contribute 50% to housework, finances, and childcare, and women contribute 50% to housework, childcare, and finances, the rate of divorce is in half.
And you understand why. I mean, like if you're
Yes.
married and you live in a household, you know the importance of sharing those responsibilities and how easy it can be for one person to start feeling like they're carrying the load.
Yes.
And it's very easy to kind of feel that disconnect.
Resent.
And why do you think, in this day and age, 2018, why do you think there are still negative connotations to men doing housework and taking care of the kids? And men even doing what are seen as traditionally female jobs or roles. Why do you think we're still there in 2018?
Well, I think that foundationally there's a bigger issue of women are bombarded with messages through media, social media, Photoshop, everything that we are not enough. And so women feel like they're having to prove their worth and prove themselves in all areas of life, whether it be work, home, friends, relationships. Like there's constantly this underlying, I am enough, just as I am. A lack of accepting that or knowing that. And that's what I'm trying to change.
Thank you for doing that. I think about this all the time, especially as a mother of 2 daughters. It's very important. You start all of those strange messages that we get from so many directions. They just come into such focus when you see them through your daughter's eyes. And I imagine even for parents of sons too. It's like you want to bring your child into a world where they're going to be loved and accepted, and definitely gender roles are changing. So let's get back to your education as well, because I love this. You come out of school and everything starts to kind of take off. You find this wonderful man. So where does your career go from this point?
So I worked 1 year in the school district in Cedar Hill, and I didn't love where I was. I didn't feel like I was making a difference. So I decided to start doing pediatric home health. And where I worked, I heard the owners laughing about how replaceable employees were. And that didn't sit well with this little Texas Spitfire. So I was 4 months pregnant, and I decided I can do this myself. So I grabbed a partner who I'd known for about 5 months, and I started kids care therapy. So I was only about a year out of school, and we started in her home in a little house in Garland, and we had 10 patients. I was the only therapist. She knew the office jobs. I knew the therapy, and I was putting payroll on my credit cards, and only by just putting one foot in front of the other, even when it got hard, but my biggest cheerleader was my husband. And he said, Cortney, if it was easy, everyone would do it. Now get up. You got to do this. And I did. And today we have, we have a presence in Dallas, Fort Worth, Tyler, Waco, Houston, San Antonio, Austin, and Denver. We have over 2,400 children with special needs that we have the privilege of providing speech, physical, occupational therapy, and nursing services. And we have about 350 employees.
That's incredible.
Thank you.
I mean, and especially when you think about where you started off as a teenage mother trying to figure out what your next step is. And now how poignant is it that you're reaching out and helping all these children on top of it? So how do you transition from that to your gender research?
So in 2012, I transitioned myself out of a job so I could fulfill a dream that I'd always had since I was a single teenage mom. And that was going back to school and getting my doctorate degree. And I went back to Pepperdine University and studied organizational leadership, which is leadership for business. And I focused on the healthcare industry specifically for my dissertation research and found that the healthcare industry is 75% female, but at the CEO level, it's only 11% women. And I'm a CEO, I'm a female, and I'm in healthcare, and that really perturbed me because I said, if we have this amazing pool of women, why is our talent not rising to the top? Why are we limited in our advancement? And so that was my research question, was what challenges and obstacles do women go through when climbing the corporate ladder? And I interviewed CEOs, CFOs, chief medical officers, and chief nursing officers all over the nation and asked them what their obstacles had been. And there were 4 main obstacles that surfaced. One was family obligations. And it came out in the research that if you have a supportive partner or supportive network, it doesn't have to be, because there were single moms too, but a supportive network, then you can climb to this level. The second was limited advancement. So they had maybe gotten to a point in their career where they knew that they wanted to go further, but there weren't opportunities where they were, or they could change organizations and then move up, but they were happy. So they were kind of like limited right there where they were currently. Or maybe, well, let me back up. So then the third was gender. Now there's 3 facets of gender-based discrimination. The first facet is called the double bind. And it's where you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. So when we typically think about leadership, we think of being strong and assertive and just a strong leader. But those characteristics are typically masculine characteristics. And when women display those, we're labeled.
Yeah.
And so
it's aggressive.
Yes.
The B word.
Yes. Yes. And so we, that's the first facet, is the double bind and stereotypes. The second facet was what I really went into my research believing, and it was that men were responding. I'm not male bashing at all because I've come full circle, but I really believed that men were responsible for holding women back. The good old boys club, the suspender wearing, laughing at their own jokes, And there are instances of the good old boys club, but more often than not, women spoke about other women holding them back.
Oh, that's so frustrating.
Yes, it is. And in fact, one of the women that I interviewed, she was a CEO of a hospital, and I asked her to tell me about her female mentors. And she laughed at me and she said, I haven't had mentors. I had tormentors. And at that point, I was like, we have got to stop this. If we are ever going to get equality, we have to start playing for the same team.
Let me ask you, how much of that do you think is biological, and how much of it is something we're taught? Because we're always taught that women don't like other women, but most women have tons of female friends. So do you think how much of this is women actually being maybe protective? Maybe they're worried that there can only be one woman in this position. So if they bring more women in, they're going to be pushed out. Or how much of it is just us being told that women don't like other women?
Well, I don't think that it's always being told that, because the instances that I've heard and experienced. So, and I have not looked into this further, but I have a theory. It's really that plays into the fourth challenge, was confidence. And that women lack confidence in themselves. And it's hard to support other women when you come from a scarcity mindset. Now, when you come from an abundance mindset of, I'm climbing up this ladder and I'm bringing you with me, then there's more opportunities. But when you come from a mindset of, there's only one way to the top, and if I push you down, then you won't get there first. So it's really changing that mindset. But yeah, I mean, it's all those factors that I discussed earlier about being constantly bombarded with messages that were not enough.
And I have to throw this out. It's something that one of my girlfriends, Tracy Cornett, the wonderful newscaster and she's very pro-female. Her statement is always, there's enough cake for everyone. Always celebrate when someone has a success, because there's enough to go around. There's enough success for all of us. There's enough cake for everybody.
Yeah, and it comes back to knowing that you have your own calling, your own gifts, your own unique abilities. I mean, you are original. You are one of a kind. You are unique and wonderfully created. You're one of a kind.
Thank you. That's what I've been telling everyone.
Yes. There you go. And when we believe that, then we aren't worried about someone eating our cake. So we have our own.
And it's funny. It's not funny. It's very frustrating, because these are just that's just one of the messages that women are always fighting against, is that, are you important? Are you valid? Are you pretty enough? Are you young enough? Are you smart enough? And where we are left questioning ourselves so much. And I feel like it's such an uphill battle. There are so many different facets that we need to change, so many ways of thinking that need to be flipped around for us to finally all get to a point where there is legitimate equality. And I think that you're right, that we are responsible as women for really making that happen for ourselves and for other women.
Absolutely.
So tell me more about your research when you went back to school and your doctorate. How enlightening had that had to be for you?
What really was the turning point for me was when I looked at those 4 obstacles and I said, this is not specific to healthcare. This is
true.
Gender specific. This is not industry specific. And at that point, I began researching and speaking to women that if they worked out outside of the home, I wanted to hear their stories and what their obstacles were. And it affirmed that they are gender specific and not industry specific. And it was interesting. I had when I was in my dissertation research and I had my final defense, and my committee chair looked at me, and or not my chair, but one of my committee members looked at me and she said, "This is big." And I realized then that I was onto something. But I look at that now and I'm like, it took her breathing life into it for me to realize how big it really was, which is why I'm even here, because somebody else was able to help me see potential.
Yeah, sometimes in your heart how big it feels, but you just need that other person to look at you and say, no, it really is that big.
Yeah.
It really, truly is.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that you are doing this, because I mean, how many years do you think it would actually take from this moment right now to get genuine gender equality?
Well, Lean In and McKinsey and Company did the research on that and found that if we continued on at the rate of pace that we'd been on for the last 3 years, It would take 25 years to get equality at the senior VP level. And at the C level, which is the highest level of leadership, it would take more than 100 years.
Oh my gosh.
Which my granddaughters wouldn't even experience equality. And to know what I know about all that the research that I've done and how I've been able to overcome those things, if I didn't do something about it to change that, then shame on me. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the reasons that I wrote the book. It's called Unlimited, Conquering the Myth of the Glass Ceiling. I don't believe in a glass ceiling. And I'll tell you why. Because when you tell a little girl, hey, there's going to be this mythical object that's going to stand in your way, and you're not going to be able to see it, you're not going to be able to do anything about it, but it's going to stand in your way and hold you back. How is she empowered?
That's true. It doesn't help her in any way. Mm.
But if you say, look, honey, here are the obstacles. There's 4. Let's create strategies to get beyond these obstacles. So let's break them down and create strategies
to deal with it.
Yes.
Well, and you're right. This has to be dealt with proactively and realistically and with steps and processes,
yes,
because we can sit around and talk about equality for days and obviously for the next 100 years. But if we don't actively start taking the steps to move forward, it's not going to happen.
No.
Yeah, this is not a talk about and it's fixed situation. It is a proactive. And okay, let's talk briefly. You mentioned about the anti-man bashing, because one of the things that's so difficult to talk about gender equality is to emphasize that this is not an anti-man situation. And I think that most men, I know my husband, I imagine yours feels the same way. They want the best for the women in their life, and they are encouraging and pushing forward. And even as parents, I know, if I mention to my husband, what are the messages we're teaching our daughters with this? That he'll hear that. He hears that very clearly. So what can we do as women through this process to not leave out men or make it seem like it's an anti-man situation?
Well, it's having those conversations with our husbands or with our spouse or our significant others and saying, hey, hon, I love you, and I'm so grateful that you're my partner in this, and we're going to be together and doing this whole, we run an organization together. It's called The Home, and you're in charge of the finances, and I'm in charge of the operations, and we are doing this together, and I'm so thankful, and here are the ways I need you to support me. But I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with women where they'll come to me and say, I'm not getting support from my husband. And I'll say, have you had that conversation with him? Well, no. It's like, and I'm trying, really, foundationally, I want to build that unit of the family back together. Get the husband involved, get the children involved, everyone involved, so we can rise together. Because if you think about it, we are in a global economy. We want the best in our leadership ranks, right? And so if women are held back in here or at home because they can't focus on work, then or what they want to do, and some women aren't excited about being at the top levels of leadership, and that's okay too. But if they are, and then they're met with these boundaries, then here are some strategies to help get around that. And one is having conversations with your husband and connecting again.
That's so true. And just outlining, this is what I need. This is what I want. How can we work through this together? And you're right. I think that the best way that everyone is elevated is through supporting each other. And a family unit is a great place to start that. And that doesn't even that doesn't have to be a husband and a wife. That's just whatever that unit of support is that is lifting everyone up.
Right.
So you have so many things that you've been working on. Tell me what you're involved in right now.
So this is so exciting. We have So much lined up. We have so many guests, and I'm so excited to announce them that I have, first off, Debbie Saviano is one of our first guests. She is Women's Leadership Live founder, one of the co-founders of Women's Leadership Live. She's going to talk about digital leadership. And I also have Elaine from Lady Boss Bloggers. She's just got an incredible story of overcoming obstacles and giving back as well. And then I also have Ashley Kincaid from Private Label Mastery, who has set her own course. And I mean, she's incredible as well. And I have more guests that are going to talk about how they found their confidence through their own worth and defined their own success. And I'm still waiting on confirmations, but I have verbal confirmations from some incredible people who have just such inspiring stories to tell. So I have this, which I'm obviously passionate about. I'm also speaking nationwide about overcoming obstacles and equality and getting women and men together in the support for equality. I am contributing writer to my blog, and then also reaching out to other sources to be included in their media. So,
how can people find your blog? Because I want to go read everything that you've written.
Oh, thank you. If you go to blog.cortneybaker.com, or you can go to cortneybaker.com, the blog section, and yeah, I mean, I'm putting new stuff out all the time. And now I've really focused my writing, instead of here's the issue, it's here's the issue and here are strategies to get beyond.
Thank you.
So 5 steps, 7 steps, 3 steps.
I think I'm a list person.
I am too.
And when I have a list, it's so much easier to follow. And that's so much more effective for me than just like, think positive. Like, I need strategies. Yeah. I need direction. And especially with something this monumental, like you said, 100 years to true gender equality. We need to get on this. We need to go through our checklists and figure out what can I do today to make a difference.
Yeah.
So can you give us, I want one little capsule today that you want everyone to walk away with for conquering the glass ceiling. Like, what is one message that you really hope everyone hears from you today? Sorry, did I totally put you on the spot?
My gosh.
You have so many great messages. You're like, how do I single out just one?
Oh, yeah. Well, just that you are worthy, just as you are. And if you aspire to do other things, then let's work together to create that path. One of the things that I have, have you heard of SMART goals? It's like an acronym, and most people like, oh yeah, I've heard of. And I'm just like, let's just make some damn goals. It's an acronym. It is an acronym.
Okay.
It stands for detailed, achievable, measurable metrics. And let's make some goals, because that's where you find your confidence. So when you make your goals and you make a plan to act on those goals, because I have a theory, confidence is found at the intersection of courage to know your purpose and faith to walk in that purpose.
Wow. I like that. And that's courage, the intersection of courage and faith.
And maybe that's my one takeaway. So know your purpose and have the faith to walk in it, and that is where you'll get your confidence.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
That's fantastic. I can't wait to hear. Are you available for speaking engagements?
Absolutely, I am. Yes, I am on a mission to change the world. No small thing, but yeah.
So again, tell us how people can get in touch with you.
Cortney Baker. So C-O-R, no U in it. C-O-R-T-N-E-Y, CortneyBaker.com.
Okay. And if they have maybe show ideas or guests
ideas, you can email me, Cortney@CortneyBaker.com. And I mean, I'm on social media. I'm on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I mean, you name it, the gamut.
Good.
So reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you.
And are you available to just come to my house every morning and like pump me up whenever I'm drinking coffee and doing the
I'll text you.
Please do. Don't forget the intersection.
The intersection. Where's your courage today?
Go through the list. So thank you so much, Dr. Cortney.
Thank you.
So excited about the show. We'll see you next time.
Okay. And if you have found any of this information empowering and inspiring, then please don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, give Julie your first child, whatever it takes.
No, I have enough. I have enough, believe me.
But do all those good things, and we will see you next time.